Hey, PSX, request the mic while we're waiting for Asobs. Maybe you're at work, huh? But, okay, awesome. Hold on. I spoke with him already, so, I mean, he's on his way. It's just, who knows? Maybe he might be editing right now and then
Oh,
he's finishing up.
okay. So he's trying to meet his own personal deadlines.
What's
He's
that?
probably just trying to meet his own personal deadlines.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Because I talked to him 15 minutes prior and he said he was ready to go. So
Yeah, okay. Sounds like he might have went down like another rabbit hole.
that could be too.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just getting his notes ready.
I probably. I'm sure. Like, you've got. I'm betting Luke is going to drag all of us down a rabbit hole with him because he's been doing really good as of late. I've been watching him very closely, and uh, like the guy's been doing his homework, like really digging in.
Yeah, has anything new popped up? I mean, I haven't noticed, but
I mean, he posted up a transaction up pretty recently. I think there was a part two, but I haven't gotten around to it. I saw the first one.
so that's probably what he's gathering. So, just to let everyone know, the podcast format is when Aesop's comes up here, it's just going to be me and him talking. There's not going to be people coming up or anything like that. The whole point of the podcast is so that you guys have a archive of individuals in the community. That way, you can kind of gauge a little about a little more about who they are instead of your typical spaces where you have a bunch of people going back and forth, whether it's drama time or whether it's people goofing around. You don't really get to know the perspective of individuals, and this allows us to have an archive of individuals so that people can understand. So if somebody's like, hey, this person, blah blah blah, and then if I was able to get them on here, you can go back and check it. That's the whole point of it. PSX, any luck getting communication with those ones that we discussed?
I haven't heard back yet. I tagged you in one of the posts. Hopefully, he'll get back to me or you and whatnot. I know like what happened previously. From what we had discussed, he was a little upset, but I definitely want to give him that opportunity. I'm sure you do as well to give his side because I mean, lately it's been one person just on a mission, and I don't think it's fair just to have a one sided viewpoint
Might be
versus
might be prudent anyway to allow a cool off period anyway. So emotions are a
yeah,
little bit
a little high.
um, more relaxed. All right, so
Yeah.
Asobs is here, so if you
Okay.
can drop back down.
Sure.
Yeah, get out of here, PSX. Brr.
Where's the middle finger emoji when I need one?
Yeah, sorry about that, Jerry. There, I was talking to Diamond Hands, went a little bit over, but I'm here now, so we can dive
No
into
worries.
everything.
Can you put me down to listener?
I think I can.
Thank you.
All right, Asobs, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a busy but good day. How are you doing?
Well, I'm on my second cup of coffee, so I'm doing good. If we would have started at 9, I think I would have been really boring. And you guys are probably hearing this cat. Let me let him out.
Let them go free.
So, did you go down another rabbit hole today?
No new rabbit holes today, luckily. So I think that's a good thing.
And has there been any new information popping out since your last tweets?
Not much, no. I think we're kind of in a waiting period right now, trying to wait for the team to come out with some official information. Because it seems like developers who are looking into things on the blockchain have kind of run into a roadblock. Other people have started to run into roadblocks. So there hasn't been much. There was one person, Antonio, who seems to be part of, I believe, Lunca Talia, if I'm not mistaken, who worked with the team supposedly on Terraport. And they said that it's possible it's an inside person. So they're at least exploring those possibilities. But I don't think we have any solid information as to who committed the hack slash rug, depending on how you want to look at it, or depending, I guess, on what happens and what comes of it. But yeah, we're waiting right now for a lot of info.
Is it possible that it's more than one person?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible it's more than one person. I highly doubt, regardless, that it's the entire Terra Vita team. Like, I extremely highly doubt that. I think, if anything, maybe it's one or two hackers or one or two people from the team, but there's going to be a lot of people that were not involved within Terra Vita regardless.
Well, I'll tell you, if it was more than one person, it's considered conspiracy, right? and conspiracies are pretty hard to maintain uh, and keep information from getting leaked. So, because people get, I mean, they should be, if there is a conspiracy, individuals should be getting worried about potential liability because that's a lot of money. I think that if people were upset enough that invested in it, start reporting it, there could be outside investigation involved besides the central exchanges.
Yeah, I definitely expect there to be investigations due to the scale of money and just some of the questionable aspects as to some of the evidence that's been surfacing.
Well, however you see what's best to how to start, maybe like give a little bit of a beginning story and how you started deciding to dig a little bit deeper because I feel like you were thinking about investing yourself and you wanted to do a little research and that was quite a while ago. So if we start there and then just kind of go on and I'll pop in when I can, but I kind of feel like you're going to be doing most of the talking.
Sure, no problem. I can start from the very beginning, way back in the old days. A couple months ago, when they had the Terraport sales going on, I did investigate some things originally, and obviously there was not that much to investigate at the time. It was more reading through things, thinking through a lot of things, trying to add things up, and there were just some things that didn't make sense. But it was kind of hard to really put too much out because it was a lot of circumstantial evidence or circumstantial questions, I guess would be a better way to put it. Things like, okay, they end up raising money for, I believe it was just over a month before they registered as a business entity. So that to me just seemed kind of strange. There were some other things that seemed strange, some numbers that just didn't make sense, where it was like, in my opinion, didn't make sense, where they had raised all this money in these private sales where you couldn't see anything, and then they go to opening it up to the public, and then they raise a lot less money. And it was just kind of like the vast discrepancies there. Some of that just seems strange to me. So I decided not to get involved, not invest, none of that, and then kind of left it on the back burner for quite a while, and then started looking back into it after the launch came out. Some people started sending me some things. There was an article, and I don't know if you saw that, Jerry, that was circulating a little bit, a Medium article about I think it was called Terraport Path to Success or something like that. But it was basically some things that seemed a little bit questionable going through the launch. For example, on their website, they had a list of every buy-in. So if you bought in on the first private sale, it had your wallet listed plus the amount you purchased next to it. If you bought into a later sale, it also had your wallet with the amount purchased next to it. It also had the referral payouts listed there. So there was just a lot of information on the website that probably should have been hidden. And then that led me to dig even further, going, wait a second, some of this doesn't add up. The biggest one for me that was a red flag was in the initial first sale, there was only supposed to be 40 million tokens allocated. But according to this list of wallets that was on their website, it was closer to 70 million, which just didn't make sense. It's supposed to be 40 million. Why is there 70 million? So I decided, okay, let me verify that this is accurate. Started going through the blockchain, and on the blockchain, they have the different wallets labeled in the transactions. I believe it's sale underscore type is how it's labeled. And then it'll say like investor or referral, or I think they called it public sale 1 or pre-sale 1, pre-sale 2. So I had these different labels listed next to them. And so I was able to verify that that first original sale did in fact have more than 40 million tokens that were listed as that sale category, which is a problem for two reasons, in my opinion. The first reason why I thought it was a problem is that it had a discounted price. So the first private sale was 2.5 cents, then went to 3 cents, and 3.5, then 4. So in theory, if they sold 70 million tokens at 2.5 cents instead of the 40 million tokens, that's a significant difference where other people paid more than they probably should have, or there was something strange going on there, as well as the fact that there's different vesting APRs. So whatever was locked up was vesting over time over a 12-month schedule. With that amount that was being vested, there were different APRs being given out. It started at the highest if you were in that first sale, the private sale, 90%, then 80%, then 70, then 60. So the fact that there's 70 million tokens listed under this private sale meant that they were earning this 90% APR when it was only supposed to be 40 million tokens, which is effectively diluting all the other investors who bought in later rounds. And that's something that I also went into the blockchain and didn't verify for every single wallet listed, but I went through, it was roughly about 50 million tokens worth, verified that they were listed as private sale when they weren't supposed to be, and also verified that they were getting the higher yield than they were supposed to be getting. So that was concerning to me because the white paper says 40 million and it's showing way more than that. And they're also getting this higher APR, effectively diluting investors. So I went ahead and tried to reach out to Rexy's to try and talk to him about it. And I did get in contact with him on Thursday. And that whole conversation I ended up posting on Twitter. I believe it was yesterday I posted that so everyone can see that. But he was not, in my opinion, showing any interest to actually investigate the issue and seemed to have said that he said that they had been aware of that and thought there was no issue. So in my opinion, I thought that was kind of concerning. And that was something that I was planning on actually bringing up to the public this week. I was going to take Easter weekend with the family, obviously, and then bring up that information this week. But unfortunately, we had the hack.
Okay, gotcha. If you want, if you have any pertinent information that relates, you can put it in the nest because I know you've done a lot of tweets. And might take you some time, but if you feel like doing that, you can.
Yeah, I can throw some of those tweets up there. So that brings us up to the point of the hack. I guess I can stop there if you want to ask any questions at that point. If not, I can just continue on to after the hack.
So the only question I have is obviously there was probably a Medium article or something that kind of explained or organized how the sales were going, or there was a place where there was some type of discussion. Were team tokens or anything like that a part of this? And maybe is that where the discrepancy comes from? Because you said there was extra tokens that were unaccounted for, or just seemed like it was over the amount that should have been. Is that a potential thing? And if it may have been something like that, it wasn't communicated, and that's the issue.
Yeah, so I think that's a good question. I don't want to say fully definitively because it is possible there's something else, and maybe Rexy's just didn't share that information. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt as much as possible. The issue that I saw is that pretty much all the other token allocations matched up with what they should have been, except for the fact that the private sale had all these additional tokens listed as that and receiving the higher APR. So that was an issue. And I couldn't find anything that said that that should have been happening.
Okay, I guess that is an issue. So, from what you've been saying, besides now, it's pretty typical practice to offer initial pre-sale and consecutive pre-sales at a little higher price. That's actually what most projects do. However, so in my mind, the biggest discrepancy is those extra tokens. Would that be correct?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I don't, if it's, so my stance is if it's outlined in the white paper in this particular scenario where they have these different price points, different total amount of tokens at those price points, I don't think that's an issue because that's transparent and everyone can have that information. The problem, in my opinion, that led me to reach out to Rexy's and investigate this further was the fact that there was those additional tokens listed as private sale, which maybe they sold at a cheaper price, maybe it was miscategorized. I'm not entirely sure there, but I can verify on the blockchain that they are earning the higher APR than what they should be earning. So regardless of why they're in that category, because maybe it's referral tokens that accidentally got listed in that category, but referral tokens are not supposed to be earning any APR. So that would be obviously an issue if they're earning 90% APR when they're not supposed to be earning anything. But that was my main issue there, if that makes more sense.
That makes perfect sense. So, just out of curiosity, do you have the figures for what everyone else was getting for APR versus what those tokens that are discrepancy that are questionable were getting?
So everyone else, it looks like if they're categorized as the different categories, so investor, pre-sale one, pre-sale two, those different categories at the different APRs, it seems like everyone within those categories is giving the correct APRs. And it doesn't go beyond the token allocations for those different rounds. So as far as I can tell with the limited information I have, it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with those other token allocations from the sales.
Well, I mean, there's that. Now, I didn't look too deeply into Terraport personally. I just one of those things. If I really, really love a project, I will jump into a pre-sale, right? But I have to really love the project to do that. And for me, it wasn't a risk I was willing to take personally. And I didn't dig that deep. It was just like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And I was going to wait until they started building things before I participated in it because I did want to support with transaction support with because if they had a DEX coming out, then there would be other projects trading on the DEX, whether it was projects we already know about or new projects, right? So I was looking forward to that, and you didn't invest either, right?
Correct. I did not invest in Terraport at all.
What was the biggest red flag for you, or what was the biggest thing that made you not go for it?
I don't know if there really was a single big thing. I mean, initially, just some of the strange things around some tweets. So I know there was a tweet that said something along the lines of, "We've received multiple seven-figure offers, but there's a buy limit of 200,000, I believe is what they said." And it was just kind of like that. Just seemed very strange to me, given the fact that the Terranova Classic ecosystem obviously was not exactly in the best position come around the time that they started doing their sales. It was right after the TR whole fiasco. So it just seemed strange timing. And then the fact that the company wasn't registered until partway through the sales. That was another thing that was just kind of like, why would you not register your company before you start selling massive amounts of tokens, in theory over $1 million worth of tokens? So some of those things deterred me, but there was really not a single big thing that kept me away.
So, with that said, how what? Just there's a lot of people in here, and maybe they're not aware of what happened. So, Terraport, if you can explain the what happened, the incident. But before that, do you know the figures for how much liquidity was provided or how much money was transacted during each sale period?
You mean how many dollars were raised at the four different sales?
Correct.
I can find that. I believe I have it written down somewhere. Um, but as I'm doing that, were you also wanting me to explain the hack scenario? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we might as well get into that, and then we'll touch on the amounts because it relates.
Gotcha. Yeah. So with the hack scenario, it's a little bit difficult to fully understand everything. I think something that's a little bit easier to understand is that basic level, there was something wrong with some of the code on the blockchain with the liquidity pools that resulted in enabling a couple wallets to withdraw all the funds. And there's some speculation as to how that occurred. There's some speculation as to whether maybe some of the admin wallets were hacked. Maybe it was embedded from the get go. Some of that stuff is harder for the average person to verify. So, what I did put up top in the nest, if somebody wants to take a look at that, is just a simple chart showing some connections between some dev wallets that were helping test and develop different things for the Terraport launch and some of the wallets that ended up draining liquidity pools. And you guys can see there are transactions that ended up going before the hack occurred from these different dev wallets into these different wallets that drain the liquidity pools. And so there is some kind of connection there, but really for us to understand whether that was intentional, whether that was maybe somebody had their computer hacked weeks ago, is like maybe not the most likely scenario, but there's a lot of different possibilities that could be happening. And I think for us to get clarity there, we'll have to know from the team. So that's where we're kind of in this waiting phase, waiting to know what happened. But essentially, a lot of value ended up being drained. I believe it was about $2 million of value ended up being drained, around say 15 billion Tier 1 Classic, if I'm not mistaken, ended up being drained. And they have since recovered some of the funds because whoever ended up draining some of the pool sent it over to different exchanges, and those exchanges have gone ahead and locked down some of those funds. And now the wallets that the funds are still in have been, the exchanges have been notified about those wallets so that they can keep a lookout and try and prevent transactions from occurring there as well. So it seems like some of the money is going to be recoverable. We'll have to wait and see as to how much the money is going to be recoverable, and we're going to have to wait for a official report as to how this actually occurred, because there is a lot of evidence that points to someone on the inside that did it. But I think at this point it's impossible to be 100% certain, but we can be pretty confident.
So I know a little bit of how liquidity pools work. It has nothing to do with the contract, because when you set up a liquidity pool, you typically just have a wallet and you provide it. Now, is that liquidity pool going to be in the contract? Most likely, right? So the ability to drain a liquidity pool, you don't have to utilize a function in the smart contract at all. You can just go into your wallet and remove it. I do know that. That's typical rug. And that's why people are using that term, because that's how they operate. Now, a hack would mean that somebody had their keys on their phone or something like that, and their individual device got hacked. That's how it would have been able to get hacked. And then someone would have to know, basically get into their wallet through a different device. And I'm not saying it's impossible. It's a harder way of going about things. But the hack isn't in a liquidity pool, has nothing to do with the smart contract. It's got everything to do with the wallet that provided the liquidity. And I'm not sure if you know how that works or not. Now, if they would have locked the liquidity pool with a service provider, no one would have been able to take it out. So there's some security issues there to consider. But here's, in my mind, Asobs, and tell me what you think about this. How many exchanges are involved? Is it 3?
I don't know the number of exchanges involved.
Now, it could only be one person, right? However, it could also be up to how many transactions there were to various exchanges as well. That's what's happening in my mind. So it could be anywhere from 1 to how many transactions that moved out of the liquidity pool, and that's the possibility. Because if it was like a team effort or like a conspiracy, then the liquidity would be partitioned to each individual. Now, I can see that somebody that is very savvy might have partitioned it into separate wallets, because that makes more sense too, because one of them might get frozen, stuff like that. But whoever did it wasn't exactly thinking about central exchanges freezing the assets, right?
Probably not, especially given the amount that they sent to centralized exchanges. Because I know before getting into Tier 1 Classic, I was involved in some cryptocurrency gaming, particularly Axie Infinity, the Ronin Network, and the Ronin Network got hacked. It was one of the largest crypto hacks ever. I believe it was second or third largest, around $550 million. And in that scenario, what happened is they sent a small amount of funds. I believe, actually, I don't remember what percentage it was, so I won't even try and guesstimate what it was. But it was a small percentage of the total funds ended up getting sent to different exchanges, and people thought, oh, we're going to get this hacker easy money. In that scenario, it turned out to be North Korean hackers, according to the FBI investigations that occurred. So that was, I think, a little bit of a special scenario where you send money to an exchange. It's a small amount of the funds, trying to throw people off while they were actively sending things through Tornado Cash. With this scenario, given the quantity that was actually sent over, I think that they thought they could get it through before things got flagged.
So, in my mind, the simplest explanation is usually the correct answer. However, this situation is a little more complex than that, because the simplest explanation is somebody from the inside was involved, right? But it could be somebody that knew somebody from the inside was involved, or it could be a completely independent person from that's very smart and knows how to hack from whoever knows where, uh, as well. So very complex situation. So let's get into the incident. If you can explain the incident and then elaborate from there.
Okay, I can get into that, or I have the numbers as to raises if you want to circle back on that.
Yeah, just do the numbers and then just jump right in after that.
Okay, sounds good. So, according to what we can find on the blockchain, this was somebody else who queried everything. As I mentioned, I went through and manually verified about 50 million worth in the private sale when it should be 40 million. So, I went ahead and verified a good chunk of what they found, but they went through and did some code stuff that I can't do. And they went ahead and found total amounts for all the different sales, and they totals out in theory with the 70 million allocated to private sale at about $5 million raised across all the different sales. So if they didn't raise 70 million in the private sale and was actually 30 million, that would be less. We'd have to kind of see what's going on there. Or if it wasn't 70 million and they raised 40 million instead, it would be less. So yeah, we'll have to see why that 70 million is there instead of the actual number it's supposed to be. But based on those numbers that are on the blockchain, it would be supposedly around $5 million raised.
Okay, and the discrepancy is probably where those extra tokens came from. Is that what you're kind of pointing out?
Yeah, I don't know if they. So the extra tokens that are allocated to that private sale, I don't know if, let's say, they sold them in a different round at a higher price, in which point they would have raised more money, or if maybe it was misplaced from some referrals to. I don't know why that amount's there when it shouldn't be there. So that's where there's a little bit of uncertainty.
So maybe no money was exchanged or no funds were exchanged. And it was could they have just gave those out for nothing, or is that a possibility? That way the value's there, but it's not actually there.
It's It's a possibility. It's a speculation that I personally have, but that's all it is. And I want to be clear about that. There's not really strong supporting evidence that they just gave it out. For that, we'd have to get more information. We can see for sure that there are tokens there that shouldn't be there, and we could see some other things. And this is something we could touch on later too, if you want, Jerry. But some other research I did was looking into some of the other token allocations outside of the sale allocations, and there were some strange things. For example, and like I said, I'll just mention this briefly, and we can circle back if you want. But there were around 10 million tokens that were supposed to be going to the marketing allocation that ended up getting funneled from 3 separate wallets into one wallet. So I don't know if somebody went ahead and manually decided to give themselves a nice chunk of the marketing allocation when it wasn't necessarily supposed to be there, or what was going on there. But there's some strange things outside of just the number of tokens in different sales.
Okay, that's understandable. I mean, what was there any? Did they spend any money on marketing? In from what you can tell, I mean, I think they were self-marketing it to the community, but did they actually? And I think Classy Crypto was involved in helping them to spread the word. But outside of that, was there any influencers or any marketing companies involved?
There were a lot of other influencers. And the strange thing here, and why I don't want to say definitively what could be behind these tokens. Um, Classy Crypto, for example, I was able to track down his wallet and confirm that he had about 177,000 Terra tokens from his referral payouts. But what's happening here is these 3 different wallets ended up getting 7 million, 8 million, and 6 million tokens from that marketing pool allocated to them, those three different wallets. Then half was unlocked day one, so roughly closer to 10 million tokens that then ended up getting funneled into a single wallet. So judging just based off the quantity dispute, where you have Classy as the number one referral payout at 177,000, and then you have 7, 8, and 6 million all getting funneled into, well, half of that, I should say, all getting funneled into one wallet with the unlocks that occurred initially. It's, I would say, questionable as to what the cause of those tokens is.
Well, I know Classy a little bit. I know you do as well. He typically doesn't take tokens of a project when he helps out a project. He usually takes something that already pre-exists, right? So that's a little bit of an oddity. He must have trusted them a little bit too much to go back on what he normally does.
Yeah, I can't find anywhere that he received team tokens. I can only find from his referrals, he got that 177,000 Terra tokens. So I can't find anywhere him giving some kind of team allocation or anything like that, just the referral ones for him, which, as I mentioned, in comparison to how many tokens are getting funneled from the marketing to this other wallet that I don't know who owns, it's a vast difference between the quantity there. That seems strange to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, let's get into the meat of the whole entire conversation. So I'll stop asking these preliminary questions, and you can get into the explanation of the rabbit hole you got in.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, we're going down a couple of rabbit holes already with strange tokens going different places that just seem strange to. Yeah, we'll say it seems strange. But yeah, so we're already getting to some of the rabbit holes and some of this different stuff. But with the hack, I think when we start talking about the hack, which is obviously the big meat and potatoes here, the big juicy stuff, it's very strange, a couple of the different things that are going on. First of all, the way, in my opinion, I think something is strange is the way that Rexies was responding to concerns before the hack. So I mentioned briefly earlier that I reached out to Rexies about some current concerns with the different token distributions, and I did pin that up above as well. If somebody wants to go ahead and look, the entire conversation between me and Rexies is up there, so people can see exactly what he said. Um, but I know a few other people as well also reached out to him, particularly about different security concerns. Now, I don't know if those security concerns match with what ended up occurring with the hack, but they were bringing up security concerns and they felt like he was not taking those seriously, which I think is a little bit of a concerning thing because from my understanding, these are people that talk to him somewhat frequently, people that he knows decently well. It was not some random person on Twitter just screaming, your thing's going to get hacked. It was someone that supposedly he should have, in my opinion, probably have known decently well and have taken some credibility in what they were saying. And so that for me is a concern that things were not taken super seriously from the get-go.
So that, to me, that I find that odd because I'm 47, and I've been around the block enough to know that if somebody that knows more than me in certain fields, I'm stupid if I don't listen to what they have to say, right? And I like to take feedback and I like to apply it because we get negative feedback, we get positive feedback, but it's how we take that feedback and utilize it that makes us better in whatever we do, right? So you're saying that somebody that's in their 50s, older than me, hasn't learned and is potentially naive, or the other thing, right?
I I don't want to say which way it could go, but it seems strange to me that you would not take that seriously because, I mean, I'm a younger guy, and even if I had a multi-million-dollar platform that I was launching and someone told me that there were massive security concerns, maybe I wouldn't act upon it. Maybe it wasn't true, whatever it is. But I'd at least spend 10 minutes looking into what's going on there. I'd at least ask for, hey, can you send me, in my scenario, when I reached out to him about millions of tokens not matching up where they're supposed to be, even at initial price of 4 cents, that's significant money. the 30 million tokens that don't match and shouldn't be in that private distribution, at 4 cents even, the initial price, that is significant money. If someone had reached out to me and said, there's millions of tokens that don't match and this thing doesn't make sense, I would have gone, okay, send me some transactions, send me some evidence. I'll spend 5 minutes looking at it and see if there's any credibility to this claim, and then gone further after that. But that didn't happen, at least in my case.
So just to let the everyone that's listening know, um, the devs are the ones that are supposed to be the experts in the code and everything like that. So if he went to the devs and asked them, he could have got a nonchalant answer from them, and then like, oh, everything's fine, right? Because a person in his position that isn't the actual coder might just take their word for it, especially if he has trust in them, right? So I guess it's all uh, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. At least that's how it is in a lot of countries, right? But definitely something fishy going on.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really great point. Is like maybe when I reached out to him, he DM'd his devs and they said, "Oh no, everything checks out. It's all good." He trusted them, and then that's why he didn't end up asking me for the transactions or any evidence like that. That definitely is a possibility, and maybe there was something going on there that the devs didn't tell him about or didn't want to know about, or maybe they even blew it off. Right? There's a lot of different possibilities here, and that's kind of where we're at right now, is trying to explore what are the possibilities of what happened here, and then hopefully we can get to an answer somewhat soon as we get more information.
Well, the unfortunate thing is the the responsibility kind of falls on whoever supported the project from the beginning and whoever essentially was doxxed, because uh, if someone does want to do something nefarious, they're not going to be doxxed. Maybe not even to the team themselves, right? So I am glad I'm not in that position. You know, I'm glad I'm not involved. I'm glad I'm not on part of the team and stuff like that, because I've I've been involved in a project where we did a pre-sale, and right now we're refunding the pre-sale, and I'm doxxed. So I'm the only one they're talking to because they can reach me, right? And I'm digging into my own pocket to refund the money, right? It's not even close to the amount of money that we're talking about here. It's not even doesn't even scratch the surface. But that is a huge liability, and gosh, I would not want to be in that stressful situation at all.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not a good position for anyone, and most likely there are a lot of people that were totally innocent in what happened, and they're probably going to get caught up in this.
It just seems kind of crazy. Um, so yeah, I guess go talk about what you think is the next piece. I'm a little bit questioned out at the moment because I had a lot of curiosities about the beginning, because everyone kind of knows what happened in the end, right?
Yeah, that's true. Everyone knows now, or probably knows, unless they're under a rock, as to what occurred with the hack, at least in broad strokes. So, and that's a good point. I think for me going forward, I think some of the big things I want to see is some transparency as to who worked on this code and a little bit more clarity there, because we know there was Terra Vita, we know that they were doing stuff with Luncatalia, but there seems to be some some confusion as to who worked on what, and that's just stuff just doesn't seem clear for the community. So I think that would be good to know as to what happened there. Have external reviews as to if there was anything any wrongdoing, because just given the amount of evidence here that makes it a possibility that there was someone in the inside that did something that they weren't supposed to be doing. I think due to that, we definitely need to make sure that there is some kind of external review that is not just the team self reviewing, because obviously that's a conflict of interest when we're thinking that the team maybe had some, or not the team, I shouldn't say the team, someone within the team maybe had some involvement here. I think we definitely need to get a lot of answers going forward, try and get the funds recovered, and hopefully knock on wood that's not a super long process, because I think that's going to be potentially a nail in the coffin if they take a super long time, because they have to go through a ton of legal processes or something like that to get the funds back, because that's something I don't know a ton about. But if they have to go through a long process to get the funds back, it's going to be a mess, and people are going to lose faith, and it's going to be a big problem. So hopefully we can get people's funds returned. Hopefully we can get a lot of clarity as to what happened here, and hopefully some faith can be restored into whoever remains on the team after this is all said and done?
Well, I'm skeptical that any of that's going to work personally. However, I do know the amount of money, and I mentioned this before. It's such a large amount of money that it's going to easily attract attention to authorities. However, if the authorities start doing an investigation, you're not looking at until we're not looking at a long process for investors to get anything back. And by the time that process is over, they might not be made whole. It might be a percentage of, and then there might be fines as well if there was anything done incorrectly. And then if they want to get their money back, there might be a civil case involved, or there might have to be a civil case involved. But I am not an expert in law. I'm just kind of no. I know that investigations from authorities, they typically aren't on the civil side. I mean, they'll provide evidence that there was something that happened, but usually they can recover the funds and lock the funds and do that kind of stuff, but they're not as involved in the process of returning money to individual investors.
Yeah, I think that's some good points there. I guess it would be, and I don't know how this would be handled, but if they ended up deciding that was someone in the team, then how do these exchanges know who can be trusted to distribute funds to? I don't know if anybody would even know that, but that's a question I've been thinking is if someone on the team was involved with this, then it's not like the team can just go to different exchanges and say, "Hey, can you send us back the funds?" Because then we don't know who we can trust. Like I feel like that just becomes a whole mess at that point.
Yeah, I mean, look at FTX and that whole situation. The investors lost out. I mean, has anything been compensated? I don't think so. Now, I do know that some funds were recovered and put back into their liquidity pool recently, which is strange. I don't know how that happened or anything, but if you look at other projects that something like this has happened, it tends to point towards investors being the last ones to get justice.
Yeah, I think it's just overall a really unfortunate scenario, and I know that's kind of the obvious thing to say here, but I think we obviously have the investors who are hurt, but also I think this is going to weigh down the Eternal Classic ecosystem for a while. Beyond just the fact that some investors got hurt, because now people are going to look at this and go, well, Terra C Vita was a company that or organization that a lot of people trusted, and I think a lot of that trust is going to be ruined now, and it's going to be harder moving forward for a lot of people. And hopefully, we don't lose too many people in our ecosystem, but I think it's definitely going to be a massive speed bump.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. I've heard it from other people as well that have said something very similar to what you just said. Because I mean, just take it for example, utilities or other projects that are thinking about going on a blockchain. There's a lot of other choices out there right now that don't have these types of situations. So this could be one of those things where, yeah, we're not going to, probably not a good time to market a product in this blockchain. We might as well start on another blockchain where we can be more successful, and then maybe we'll go to Luna Classic if they can, recover, if they show that they've recovered from this. So it's a big hit. It's if I said it to somebody else, I was like, if the TR 150K a few months ago with their proposition, if that was a slap in the face, this is a shotgun to the face, right?
Yeah, I mean that's that's a pretty good way to put it.
Well, I mean, it's a $4 to $5 million, shotgun blast, and versus 150,000 slap. So,
Yeah, we thought the 150K was bad. Like, damn.
well, good thing is that it didn't take away from the layer one. I mean, it is separate. It's a layer two, and even Binance and Ethereum have similar things like this going on, but they have so much momentum and other projects that type of thing doesn't affect them. The reason why it affects us is because we don't have a whole lot going on. So it's like list all the projects that we have that are potentially building on the chain, which aren't very many, and then you take the money that they're transacting or how much they have available for development and things like that, and you compare it to this amount, and you're probably looking at over 90% of what's currently on the blockchain has just been hacked and taken, right?
Yeah, I don't know about percentages, but I think it's definitely fair to say this was one of the larger projects in terms of dollar value, in terms of community hype, in terms of a lot of different aspects here. And so it's going to be a substantial hit because you're right, we just don't have a lot going on. We maybe have a handful of different projects that are actively supporting the Eternal Classic ecosystem right now. And this was pretty much the largest one out there. And now there's obviously significant issues with that. And so it's going to create a lot of ripple effects for sure.
It's unfortunate because I know the now I'm not familiar with their business model, but I mean if they had a good business model with the decks and everything like that, they would have been able to make money with the decks and keep the project going and do all kinds of sorts of things and probably be a heck of a lot more valuable than just what was taken out of liquidity. It could have been way higher than 4 million, depending. Now, that's one thing you got to realize with the things that are going on the blockchain. It probably wouldn't have been successful immediately, but maybe 2 years from now, it would be really rocking and rolling. I mean, that's my perspective anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's definitely a lot of potential behind the decks, and it's not looking good to say the least going forward. I do think, and maybe you disagree here, but I do think there is a path for them to have redemption. It's just going to be a very fine road that they're going to have to walk, and they're going to have to basically be just hitting it out of the ballpark for the next couple months straight with no hiccups for them to have a redemption, in my opinion. But I think there is that opportunity still.
Yeah, it's almost like having to walk a tightrope over the Grand Canyon. That's how tight that is, right?
Yeah, blindfolded with one foot both ways.
So hopping across a tightrope over the Grand Canyon, yeah, it's going to be difficult.
Definitely.
So I guess we kind of cover everything, or did we miss something?
I think we covered the bulk of it. If you want, you run the show here. We could have people up. We could circle back on stuff. I'm flexible.
Well, I typically don't do that because it's a podcast style. Because I want an archive of Asobs so that people who want to know who you are can always go back and listen to the podcast. So we can go into some other things like maybe your YouTube channel and what that's all about.
Anyone who is listening here in the future, why did you come back to listen to me? You should evaluate what's going on in your life because
oh my gosh, you're so hard on yourself.
It's just straight facts. It's just straight facts. Like honestly, if you got this far in and you just came back from the future, if you're in the future right now, I see you and I know that you're listening to this and I know what's happening.
I mean, you could probably go into your OnlyFans toe situation, but that's just a joke anyway.
Don't go to onlyfans.com/asobs. There's nothing there. Don't go check it out. You will regret it.
So with that said, I'm assuming your videos have been about Terraport recently, but before that, what have you been talking about? Any other projects, or has it just been Luna Classic mostly?
Mostly Luna Classic ecosystem, probably 60-70% that. Some Shiba Inu, dabbling a little bit in a couple other things, but not that much. Mainly Eternal Classic, Shiba Inu, and yeah.
Well, I think the Shiba Inu and Terra Luna Classic probably get more views. People are more interested in learning about those projects than maybe Ethereum and Bitcoin. Unless you're Coin Bureau, then he can talk about whatever he wants.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Coin Bureau can talk about whatever they want, but there's a lot of overlap I found between the Channel Classic community and Shiba Inu community. There's a lot of people who are involved in both, and that's definitely a nice thing. So I have a decent amount of my viewers who will watch both types of content because they want information on both. They're invested in both. They tend to be, the more casual investors, people who are trying to get the information through YouTube. Because if you're like a boomer invested in some boomer stuff, you're not really going through YouTube anyways. So you're definitely nice having that overlap between the two communities and being able to provide people with information on both, as well as some of that, lunk to $1 content, all that golden stuff that we also need.
I mean, you're not doing that, are you?
I mean, how else is Lunk going to go to $1?
Oh, just kind of like throwing it out there in the universe.
I mean, we gotta manifest it, right? You gotta manifest Lunk to $1.
Well, there's a lot of hard work before manifestation can actually occur. So I know we can manifest all day long, but if the hard work's not being done, then yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I know that I think we joked about it in another space the other day that it's at this point where the how many coins there are, it's more likely that my entire bag might hit $1 than the token hit $1.
Yeah, yeah. There's probably a higher likelihood that your entire bag goes down. Yeah, the odds are not exactly in your favor, to say the least. But um, I think a lot of the stuff now, as far as the content wise, for myself and other people, is shifting. It used to be a lot more lunk to $1 in the next couple months. We're going to burn 50% of total supply this year, and some stuff that was highly optimistic, to say the least. But now we've come down, I think, a little bit to earth, at least myself in particular, and it's more okay, what's the 5 to 10 year plan for us to get things done? How are we going to onboard the next 100 utilities? How are we going to hit parity so then we can onboard the next 100 utilities? What is that going to look like? How much are they going to burn? And getting a little bit more real with the circumstances that we face going forward.
Well, I think the lunk to $1 thing is going to be a heck of a lot more popular in 2025 when we're probably experiencing the next actual bull run. I mean, people think that what's going on with Bitcoin right now is a potential bull run, but I think it's more like a bull trap. Now, come Friday, if people don't know, that's typically the day that a lot of the bigger investors are shorting stocks, and they're also some of them are shorting Bitcoin. So that's why if you look at every Friday historically, a lot of times Bitcoin goes down in price on Fridays. Do you follow Bitcoin, Asobs?
I don't really follow Bitcoin that much. I follow Ethereum a lot more. I hold probably 80% of my crypto holdings is Ethereum right now. So not really too much following Bitcoin, but obviously they tend to both be pretty highly correlated usually. So not so much the past little bit, unfortunately for me with my Ethereum, but generally speaking, they tend to be pretty highly correlated.
So since you watch Ethereum a lot, does it tend to go down on Fridays?
I don't know. I don't watch it on like a weekly basis that much. If I'm totally honest, I couldn't even tell you exactly how much ETH I have. I think it's around 10 ETH, but I'm more of a holding it for the next couple of years.
So it's like a lot of these guys that do these predictions on stocks and things like that. It's above my head, but it's not. It's still a simple concept. Essentially, if a stock or a crypto is oversold oversold, so it's a higher value than it probably should be. I typically expect it to be shorted on Fridays because that's typically when it happens, and it could happen as early as late Thursday as well. But and that's just a relationship between the stock market, because the stock market's not open up on the weekends, and everyone's like, "Oh, crypto, blah blah." Blah. Crypto's not never closes, and that's why you see recovery happening over the weekend oftentimes.
And crypto never closing can be a pain sometimes. Like sometimes when you have the 1 a.m. crashes or stuff like that going on, that can be kind of stressful to manage. Um, and yeah, it can be an adventure. I definitely remember a couple times being up late at night and then my random altcoin just dumps like 10% at like 2 a.m. And then it's like, okay, I guess I'm up for the next couple hours trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this thing. And it's definitely interesting with crypto never closing. It gives a lot of opportunities, but also can be a pain for the average investor. I feel like since you have to monitor it so much.
Well, I consider myself the average investor, but I think it all depends on strategy. There's a lot of short-term mindsets out there when it comes to crypto, and uh, like just say like five years ago, if you would have got into Bitcoin or Ethereum, you probably would have bought in at a lower price than it is today. Now, I'm saying this without referencing anything, right? It's an assumption. So I think it's a good assumption to have that it was a lower price than it is today. But it, if you hold it long term, now the only danger in that is if you're putting your money in some highly risky endeavors, then it might not even last 5 years. So that's always something to consider.
Yeah, that's true, and that is a good point. That it depends on your strategy. Like my Ethereum, I couldn't tell you how much it is because it's just locked away in a vault essentially, and so I just leave it. I don't touch it. I'm not really monitoring it that hardcore. Versus some more active trades, like around the Shibarium launch, I was actively trading Bone, and so that was something I was monitoring pretty much every hour the price. So it definitely that is a good point. It does depend on how you're trying to trade cryptocurrency. If you're doing long term, then you don't really need to be up at 1 a.m. checking charts like I do sometimes. And if you're actively trading it, then maybe you are up at 1 a.m. actively checking charts.
So with Shibarium, it did launch. Now, is there any issues with that, or what's the latest news on Shibarium?
So the big thing that a lot of people seem to be upset about, at least in my YouTube comments particularly, is the fact that the Shibarium didn't actually launch with full live cryptocurrencies. It's more of a test net right now to make sure everything's working out. And people were upset about that because they thought, and I can kind of get where people are coming from, because if you didn't fully read everything, maybe it wasn't the most clear. But it was kind of like people or people's expectations, or some people's expectations, was that it was going to launch and then instantly have a bunch of utilities, which was not really the case. Instead, it was more, we're going to launch the network in a test version, we're going to test things out, and then we'll start working to prepare utilities to be onboarded over the coming couple months, is more how it kind of actually played out. And so there was a lot of people in the comments, particularly, and maybe they're more the vocal people because they were more upset about it, but there were a decent number of people that were pretty upset that it was not a full launch with live cryptocurrencies.
Well, I mean, this is the best time to build, right? In the bear market. Now, I know there's been some upside recently, but uh, before next Bitcoin halving and into the year that follows, that is probably going to be the next bull run. Is it going to be as big or bigger than the last one percentage wise? I don't know. Maybe not, because the economy is probably, well, it has gone down. I think it will go down a little bit more. And I think the recovery overall in the whole entire scheme of the entire economy is actually going to be a slow climb compared to previous years. So I don't know how that affects crypto. I know crypto is more correlated to technology stocks, like, so Bitcoin kind of follows a little bit closer to Nasdaq at 85% typically. But now with this bank thing going on, does it match up anymore? I don't know. I don't think it does match up like it was before.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of that's just going to have to be proven with time, and we'll have to see, is it going to be the same historical, or is it going to be different? And yeah, it's pretty much anybody's guess, in my opinion, as to how it's going to go. But I think it's going to be a rough little while with everything going on in the economy, like the banking stuff and other issues.
Well, I do know one thing though. Bitcoin is still different from technology stocks, even though it has tended to follow the Nasdaq at 85% correlation. when the stock market's going to take a big hit and you see gold prices climb even higher than they are right now, Bitcoin's probably going to follow suit and climb as well, because it's essentially a store of value. And there's more people that are starting to see the value of Bitcoin, because where did all this money come from all of a sudden, right? Now, I do think that the Bitcoin whales are probably going to dump on a lot of the institutional money that may have came in, or some of the smart money that came in. Uh, and I think it's going to happen Friday to a small extent. We might see a dip down to like 28.5 or something like that, potentially. And I'm not looking at it right now, so I don't really know. And I know Ethereum has uh, did it happen today? Their update, their what is it? The Shanghai update or whatever they called it. Did that happen today?
I'm not sure actually. I've been a little deep in Terraport stuff the past couple days, and then today was sleeping. Honestly, I slept in pretty late this morning, trying to catch up after 3 hour night and then some other short nights. So I'm not sure.
Well, during my last podcast, Ethereum was pumping. Now I don't know how much it pumped, because I was so tired and I was tweeting still a little bit here and there, and then I fell asleep, so I didn't look at it. But it almost seemed like to me that people were buying the news on the update, and you know, the smart money already bought the rumor. So I'd really encourage people to be a little bit cognizant of what's going on, because usually when something gets press released and people start talking about it, probably a little bit too late to take advantage of those opportunities. It's always my suggestion is that if you like a particular project, like take Luna Classic for example, everybody that's in here every day, or everybody that's involved every day, has a little bit more gauge on what could potentially happen with the price, right? So if they're trying to benefit from that, hearing some news here and there, they're going to probably disappoint themselves. Now, I've been caught buying the news myself. I guess this is why I learned a hard lesson. Every time I've bought the news, I've lost 20 to 40%. So by the time it's made a Medium article or the news, it's too late. Now, the reason why it's that much Asobs is because they weren't blue chips. They were altcoins that were very risky. So, and gotta say, some of them were probably. I was pretty heavy into meme coins at one point, and I got into some that way, where I heard about things a little bit too late. And have you ever bought at the peak? I mean, I have, and it's very disconcerting, especially around the time. Now, one thing that I do know is, it's like baby Dogecoin. I got wind of that project so late, and I still bought it at a decent price, but I didn't take any profit at any point, and then it just dove down to nothingness. And then for whatever reason, I sold when I was even, so I didn't really lose it. I did lose a little. I lost like 10% of my initial investment, and then it went down even further. So I was like, "Oh, geez, I'm glad I did that." And then one day, I was like, "Something's happening," and I put a little in. I didn't put much in, and it just started climbing way up. And I was like, "Dang, I should have put more in." But like, it's it's so odd. Now, I I didn't follow my typical strategy that I did back then, because I got to a point where I was like, okay, I got $1,000 to put into meme coins. Now that's just an arbitrary number, but I would try to find 10 meme coin projects and stick it into 10 different ones. And when I did that, three of them did very well. A fourth one did okay, but it didn't do a meme coin run like all the other ones did, right? Just all it took was one of those to make my money back. And I did pretty well. I think I very well, actually. Um, I only put $50 into Saitama, and it went up to 1,700 before I took it out. Now, if I would have kept it in, I would have had 40K at the top, right? And I was going to keep it in, but I made a mistake. I needed, I don't know what it was. I think I was moving to another town at that time, and I needed $100 for gas and things like that, right? For the rental truck. And I meant to do it, and for whatever reason, I sold the whole entire bag. So I would have had 30 some thousand from that because I was going to hold on to it until like when it went up, because I knew it was going to go up just because of the hype that was surrounding it, right? Big mistake, but that was probably one of my hugest gains, even when I took it out that early, right? But it is what it is, man. That's how we learn.
Yeah, that's pretty insane gain on a 50 into over 1,000. That's pretty nuts. And yeah, you definitely can get caught in the like a woulda, coulda, shoulda scenario where you wish you'd done something else. But I can definitely feel you on the buying the top stuff too. For a while there, I was buying in Axie Infinity, something I mentioned earlier that I was involved in a crypto gaming thing. Was buying these like internet potato video game characters for almost $400 a piece. And then in reflection, I'm like, what the hell was I doing buying internet characters for $400 a piece? Like that's so dumb. But that was definitely a top move right there. But I'm curious, Jerry, with some of those meme ones that you got into and got kind of wrecked on, were those on Reddit perhaps, or how did you find those?
They were on Ethereum, and mostly what I did is I researched on CoinMarketCap, so coins that were already established. And then I looked at the chart and was just trying to buy coins that still had active community and were just basically down, and that's kind of how I did it. And they all made movements, but when November hit and or September, November, and things started going up, it was three that really made the moves. Now, individual, like you want names. Gosh, I don't like. I know Saitama was the biggest one, so that's the one that I remember the most. I think one started with a K. It's like Kuji coin or some. I can't remember what it was though. It was an Inu. It was an Inu coin. I do know that. Um, I had some Shiba. I 10x'd on that one. Um, Shib. So that was one of the winners, but it just wasn't a huge winner, right? But it was one of the better ones, one of the three. So Shib, Saitama, and the other one started with a K, but I never cashed out on it, so I still have it somewhere. I hopefully I still have the wallet. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot of money, but it it better it like 15x'd, but I didn't take it out.
Those are some solid gains there, Jerry. 10x's, 15x's. Those are nothing to be ashamed of at all. Those are solid boys.
Yeah, and I mean the strategy worked for me, and I picked it up from probably a YouTuber, I don't know, or somebody I talked to in Telegram. I didn't. A lot of things in life aren't brand new ideas. It's ideas that somebody has already done, and somebody had already done this. Honestly, Coin Bureau, it was a YouTuber. It wasn't Coin Bureau, but it was somebody that was talking about altcoins or something like that. And it was an altcoin strategy that a YouTuber used, and I don't recall who it was, where they said you have this amount of money to invest, um, check projects, and then just divide it evenly, and then you're going to have a winner somewhere in there, right? And it was risky altcoins. It wasn't. It was like meme coin investing. It wasn't like because you lose on when it comes to meme coins. You could lose. You're going to lose on most of them, right? 90% of them potentially. And but if you have one that 100x's, you make your money back. And that was the strategy I used, and it worked for me. I made my money back on just one coin. I made my money back.
It sounds like your first mistake, Jerry, was listening to a YouTuber for advice.
Yeah. Well, I think this advice actually works. I do like that. And I will be. dabbling in the meme coin thing again when I return to the States, looking for projects just to do the experiment again. And yes, I'm not going to put thousands and thousands of dollars in meme coins because I don't want to, but I might put $25 in 10 meme coins, right? Or $50 in 10 meme coins just to see what happens, right? And I will know that I will be disciplined enough to not fall in love with one project over the other.
Just Terra Classic. That's your only love, right?
I love the community. There's a lot of frustrating things about Terra Luna Classic that people in here could probably guess some of them, right? uh, However, when I look at Terra Luna Classic, regardless of everything that has happened up to this point, there's still upside potential, right? And I never, people say this stuff all the time. I never put anything in that I wasn't willing to lose. So um, I didn't put anything in that I wasn't willing to go to Las Vegas and throw down on a craps table and lose it all at one time, right? So it's not going to upset me as much as it might other people. And I've maintained that discipline. I have DCA'd a little bit here and there, but it hasn't been amounts that would break me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely that makes sense a lot. I think that's kind of how I view pretty much a lot of things outside of Ethereum is what am I okay losing?
Yeah. So yeah, when you're talking about the blue chips, like Bitcoin, for example, if I had 20,000 extra money laying around, Bitcoin would be a primary place that I throw that. And I would probably stick it in there for the next 10 to 12 years, maybe up to 15 years, right? And I wouldn't even worry about it. It'd go up and down and up and down and up and down, and I wouldn't care. And it would just sit there. And Ethereum would probably be another one. But I think in the short term, I believe, might be wrong, and Asobs, you're a Ethereum fanboy, so maybe you're going to disagree with me. But I think in the short term, Bitcoin has more upside than Ethereum. What do you think about that?
In the short term, I think you might be right.
But Ethereum in the long term has more. So that's kind of my perspective. So I think figuring out a good mix between those two, because I honestly don't think that there's going to be a project that completely steals all of Ethereum's market share, right? It's so established that I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is just all this regulation stuff because I think if Ethereum can make it out the other side of all this regulation stuff, mostly unscathed, it has a lot of potential. But who knows what curveballs different regulatory agencies are going to throw at us, and that's where I think Ethereum could be hurt more than Bitcoin in the short term.
I do know one thing though. Before regulation hits, and during a bear market, I think now is the time to get into some good positions because once the regulations come, I think it's going to be a lot harder for the small investor to make good money because there's going to be a time where the types of gains that you're used to seeing on the stock market, maybe 20% in a year, that kind of thing, crypto's eventually going to turn into that. Now, it's more correlated to technology stocks where you get big gains. So there's going to be some winners, but there's going to be a lot of losers. So if you're in a this doesn't exist yet, but if you're in a crypto mutual fund, which I think will exist eventually, and it's invested in 500 different cryptos, the overall gain is going to be very similar to what a Nasdaq index fund would be, or a technology sector fund that's invested in a lot of technology stocks. It's going to be similar gains like that. So with that, it's going to be more volatile than the S&P 500, but it's going to be potentially a higher gainer than the S&P 500. So Asobs, I'm not sure if do you do stocks as well, or am I speaking in foreign tongues to you?
I do a little bit of stocks, but that's not that intense. It's a lot of just S&P 500 doing that kind of stuff because I know I'll degen too hard on stupid stuff if I go the other route. So I've lost too much money on different options just being stupid. So just self control wise, it's mainly S&P 500, similar concept to the Ethereum, just dollar cost average, throw it away, don't look at it, and in the future it's going to be great, but not too actively involved.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I like the index funds with that, but I mean, if you're super good at research, then you can find some gems. So I'm lucky. I have a brother that still is a financial advisor, and he does his own personal investing. He doesn't manage a mutual fund or anything crazy like that, but he knows which, and he's a value investor, kind of like Warren Buffett. He kind of read a lot on Warren Buffett, so he kind of follows that type of investment strategy. So he's constantly researching which stocks are value, like which ones are undersold, and he even researches the ones that are oversold, and he tends to short them and executes on Fridays. That's why I know Friday is typically a day that stocks go down, and a lot of times Bitcoin goes down along with it because of the same reason.
Yeah, if I wanted to, I probably could do a lot of it. I mean, I have a finance degree, I have an MBA, I've done some stuff in the past, and obviously that only teaches you so much. But I could definitely handle some stuff. It's just like I said, I know myself well enough that I'm just going to degen too hard into stupid stuff, and so I just self control prevent myself from even going down that route because otherwise I'll get too invested into something. I'll get too emotionally connected to something. I just know something will happen where I'll mess up. So self control instead to avoid that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right with you there because to be good at on that side, um, the research is key, right? You got to know who's running the company. I mean, the same things we do for crypto when we research projects, right? It's just for me, crypto's more fun, and I'll let my brother and other financial advisors figure out what to do on the stock market side, and I'll just call him up. It's like, hey, I want to do something. What should I do? And I'll just follow his advice instead of me doing it myself. And I guess that's lazy. And I know somebody in here that would call me lazy for doing it that way. But yes, I only have so much time in a day, and I can only look into so many things. So I'm going to stick with crypto, and I'm also going to just stick down to projects that I have the time to research and what I know about as well, because I've I've been victim. And Asobs, here's a good question for you: have you ever invested in a crypto that you didn't know enough about?
Oh yeah, 100%. In the crypto gaming space, I was throwing money into I don't know, a dozen different projects, not equally into a dozen different projects, but like a few $100s into projects that just someone told me I should buy into, and so I just bought into it without looking into it, and then lost those few $100s, and now it's like $20. And so I've definitely done my fair share of degen plays, and luckily I've learned from that, which is why I restrict myself to very small amounts of access to capital now. But yeah, I've done stupid stuff for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. Like I got to a point like I was really heavily researching when I was doing the meme coins, and then I got to a point where I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna pick these last few without even looking at them, and then they turn out to be rugs or something. So,
That's how it works. That's how it works when you don't look into something. It's like the one thing that you don't look into happens to be a rug.
well, it's easy on the with the meme coin startups to fall into that trap, and I think the scammers know that people in general just we tend to get complacent or lazy, however you want to say it. We tend to get complacent. We get comfortable, and then we're like, that's good, blah blah blah, and then you go to a Telegram, and Telegram's not even popping like it used to. Asobs. I think Twitter is the place that people are going to now. So that's what I've been told anyway. And but back then it was Telegram. You go into a Telegram, you're like, wow, there's a lot of hype behind this, and you make a decision and you throw more than what you initially were going to throw in. So you step away from your strategy. And I think every time I've stepped away from my strategies, that's when I got hit the hardest. That's when I lost the most.
Yeah, definitely. You get greedy, you get overconfident. I've been there on all of it for sure. And you just start doing. I start doing dumb stuff. Does not go well for sure.
Well, Asobs, it's been awesome. I think we've been talking for over an hour. So if you have anything more to say, and if anybody wants to question you, is it okay they send you a DM about Terraport?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me, Jerry. I appreciate it. It's been great coming in and chatting and talking about Terraport and then just discussing life and different random things. So it's been fun coming in. I appreciate you having me. If anybody has questions about the Terraport or would like me to send them transactions, different evidence, different pieces like that, feel free to reach out. I can send you. I put together a document with some different links so you guys can verify different things if you want to. And if you just want to reach out, I can send that over your way to whoever needs that.
Yeah, and Asobs, you'll probably ain't gonna like this, but if you guys are interested in following this, he does have a YouTube channel, and he does post videos about Terraport specifically and Luna Classic. On his profile, you could follow and get to his YouTube channel and subscribe. That would probably be good, and he is pretty involved in the community. So I don't see why not. I'm not very active on YouTube like I used to be, but I think I think I already follow you on YouTube. I think I'm already subscribed, but I'll go check and make sure that I am.
Yeah, I'll be sure to just like DM you every lunk to $1 video. That way you don't miss them.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know that clickbait. That's how these guys get paid, and people get mad at the YouTubers for that, right? I know you're not doing that now, but
Oh,
I
I'm doing
think
it, Jerry. Don't give me too much credit here. I'm doing it, bro. Like
okay.
with the
Well,
Terraport hack, I put lunk hack in the thumbnail, and people were pissed. Even Vegas commented. Vegas came at me. He's like, "Is simple, mate. Don't clickbait. Lunk not hacked." And then I was just like, "Bro, but this video got 2,700 views when it would have otherwise got like 1,000." So, I mean,
right.
like in that scenario, I really don't feel bad because I'm trying to give people information. So in that case, an extra 1,700 people got the information that wouldn't have otherwise had it. But other times, it's trying to get that extra $5 of ad revenue. Really out here grinding for $5.
Well, I think people don't understand the YouTube algorithm. You like the best YouTube channels, the most successful ones, are clickbaiting. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been baited into watching something that had nothing to do with what I wanted to watch, and I'm like, why did I just watch this? It's like nothing in the title. They were talking about nothing that was in the title.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, Mr. Beast does it. Everyone does it at a large scale. They just do it differently, right? Because first of all, they're not covering finance channels in a lot of cases. There, of course, are the large finance channels that also clickbait, but there's a lot of guys that don't cover finance and they clickbait in different ways. But also, the big guys out there, they have dedicated teams. Like Mr. Beast, I think said in one video he spends like $20,000 a thumbnail. So, his videos or his thumbnail is going to look a lot better and less intense clickbaity. It's going to be more subtle clickbait, but he's going to get your clicks still because he spends that much money perfecting his art. Whereas me, sorry, I can't spend $20,000 making a thumbnail for the Terraport hack thing. I got to go with some of the quote unquote cheaper ways or a little bit more upfront in your face clickbait ways to get the views.
I mean, that's a fact. I dabbled a little bit in YouTube, and I had somebody give me some advice, thumbnail advice specifically. And there was a specific font for the demographic that I was trying to reach. And there was other feedback that I utilized. So I just listened to this individual. They had a bigger channel than me, so like why not listen? And I did exactly what they said. My views just went up by like 2 times and 3 times. as much as I was getting hardly nothing, and then just all of a sudden I was getting a bunch of views just because of a thumbnail change.
Oh yeah, no, it can be massive changes because I think something that a lot of people don't know who aren't involved in YouTube, and I don't blame them, is like I'm not just competing with Crypto King and Classy and Matthew Perry and all these channel classic people. I'm competing for the YouTube homepage, so I am literally competing with Mr. Beast and other guys who are spending tens of thousands of dollars on thumbnails for your views. That is where the majority of YouTube views come through, or at least if you're getting bigger view videos, it's coming through the homepage. So it's like I have to compete against those guys. It's not just me versus the other channel classic people. It's me versus people spending tens of thousands of dollars on a thumbnail. So kind of got to do what you can to get the views.
I hear you, and it's a grind, and it's a lot of work editing videos. Like it takes time.
Yeah, some more intense edits can take a long time. I think the longest I've spent editing a video was like 15 hours. And haven't done that again since because that was brutal.
Yeah, I wasn't very skilled at it, so it took me longer than the average person, I'm sure. But so it's been awesome, Asobs. Maybe another time we'll have you on. I have some pretty good people lined up. Can't really get into too much detail. I know that Bruce, Coach Bruce, has agreed to come on. He should be in about 10 to 12 days. And then Redline also. And I'm trying to get that one locked in. And obviously, he's going to be talking about his proposal for REPEG. So I think that would be good information to get out to the community. So thank you, everybody, for coming in. And just so everyone is reminded, this is a format that I've been using. And the purpose is to archive individual perspectives. So if you want to go back and listen to this one on Asobs, you can go back and listen to it. And you know that it's only going to be me and him talking. And no one's going to come up and ask a question unrelated to the topic that we're covering. And you can hear and learn more about Asobs as an individual versus a back and forth conversation where you don't really get to have that aspect. And it's just a little bit different that was lacking in the community that I think the YouTubers were sometimes providing the community with their interviews. I think Happy Caddy Crypto had Lunkburn Army on not that long ago. So it's kind of like that, except no video. So, and I guess Happy Caddy does it's almost similar to this because he doesn't show himself anyway. So thanks, Asobs, for being a good sport coming in and giving us this opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it, and everyone should definitely come back for the next episode with Jerry. Got some. I'm excited to come back and hear Redline and Lunkdow. The Lunkdow one, I'm most excited for, if I'm being honest, just because I think it'll be extremely entertaining. But everyone should definitely come back and listen to Jerry's upcoming episodes.
All right, so I'll be signing off here. Take care, everyone.